Hi my loves, welcome to the channel Style by C. Today's tutorial will be on how to recreate this beautiful gown. Do subscribe to the channel, share to friends, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. See you in our subsequent tutorials. Thank you. So loves, the first thing for us to mark is your half length, which I've done from here to here. I have 16 inches. So this is my start point line. Here I'm going to start my shoulder measurements, which is 8 inches. Now from the 8 inches, I'm going to come down to 1 inch for my shoulder slope. Then from here now, I'm going to go down to my armhole measurements, which is 7.5. To get yours, divide your bust measurement by 6, add 1.5 inches to yours. Now the neck width we're working with is 3 inches. So from this point in, I'm going to connect to my 1 inch shoulder slope, which I have here. Okay, so here, which is where our chest line is, I'm going to go ahead and mark my shoulder measurement at that point. Then I'll make a horizontal line here. This is what we have. Okay, now from this chest line, I'm going to be connecting to my shoulder slope. And this is what we have. Okay, now from our shoulder line, we're going to go down to our bust point, which is at 10 inches, our under bust, which is at 13 inches. I'll go ahead and make a horizontal row across each of these points. And this is what I have. Alright, now the next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to be covering my armhole. So the next thing to work on is our armhole area. So what I have to do now is to divide what I have here into 2 to get the midpoint, and this is my midpoint. Now from this midpoint, I'm going to come into 1/2 inch. From the 1/2 inch, I'm going to be connecting to my shoulder slope. But I'm going to use the curved part of this root to connect to the chest line. Okay, please note that this is your bust line, this is your under bust, this is your half length, this is your chest line. Now the next step now is we're going to be marking our nipple to nipple measurements. So my nipple to nipple is 8. When I divide it into 2, I have 4. I'll mark it on the bust line, the under bust, and the half length. And this is what I have. Now I'm going to make connection of these 3 points together. Alright, so guys, the next thing we're going to do now is we're going to come to the under bust. This is our side bust and this is our center bust. On the side bust, I'm going to mark 1.25 inches. Same on my half length. That's I mark this on my under bust and on my half length. Then I'm going to connect these 2 points together. Now on the under bust, at the center bust, that is, this is the under bust horizontally. But here now, which is the center bust, I'm going to mark just 1 inch. 1 inch. And this is what I have. I'll go ahead to still connect these points together. Alright. Now the next thing to do is I'm going to be making a curve to my bust line. Using the curved part of my rule, I'm going to go ahead to create my curve. And this is what we have. Alright, so this is what it is. Now we're going to divide our shoulder slope, what we have at this point, into 2 to get the midpoint. And this is the midpoint. Now from here now, I'm going to be connecting to my bust line here. And this is what I have. Alright, you're going to go ahead to determine where you want your over bust to kick off from. To get to your actual over bust, what you have to do is
take the difference, measure what you have between your bust line and under bust, divide it into two. For instance, here now we have 3 inches. When we divide it into two, we'll be left with 1.5 inches. So from your chest line, you go up by 1.5 inches. At this point, you have determined your over bust. Okay, but for me, I'm going to be working with 6 inches from my shoulder line. This is to avoid my 6 inches to 6.5 inches because I do not want my cleavage to show. That is why I'm making use of this. But the actual way to do it is divide what you have between your bust line and under bust into two. Whatever you have from your chest line, go up with it. So from here now, I'm going to come down to 6.5 inches. And this is where my nice. So I'll go ahead to divide it into two. I'll go ahead to make a rule across that line. Okay, so now the next thing I'm going to do now is I need to tighten this over bust. To do this now, I'm going to mark 0.75 inches on both sides of my line. And this is what I have. Now from this point now, we're going to be connecting to the bust line. And this is it. Alright, so we have tightened our over bust. Now we're going to go ahead to insert our actual body measurement to our pattern paper. So we'll start with here, which is the chest line. I'm going to insert my bust measurement at this point. So I have 8.75. My waist, I have 7.5 inches. This is what we have. Now, these parts are going off. We're going to be adding back to our pattern paper. So here we remove 2.25 inches. I'm going to be adding it back to my pattern paper. That is for the waistline or the half length. I'm also going to come down to my chest line. Measure what I have here. I have 0.75 inches. I'm going to be adding it back to my pattern paper. Please note that these are not seam allowance. These are what we have removed from our pattern paper. We are going ahead to add it back to our paper. Alright, so now I'll go ahead and connect this point. That is the waist and the half length together. And this is what I have. This part now is going to be this is our yoke. And this is our main bustier. Now we're going to cut this. So guys, this is what we have for our bustier. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is to transfer this our pattern paper to our fabric. So first thing first, before then is I'm going to measure what I have here. This is my bust line. I'm going to measure what I have from this point to here. I have roughly 4 inches. Okay. Now I'm going to do this for the side. I'm also going to measure for the center. And I have 3 inches for the center. So while transferring this to my fabric, I'm going to make sure that this side is up to 1 inch. Alright, so that when I join the two fabrics together, I'm not going to be having a shortage. Alright, so that is what we are going to do. So we're going to transfer these pattern papers to our fabric now. So guys, to cut this out now, what I have to do is what first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to place my tape at my 4 inches. We had 4 inches for the other side, that is the side piece. So I place it on my bust line, which is here. And I'm going to mark wherever it stops, okay, from 4 inches upwards. So this is where it is. Alright, so from this point I'm going to be connecting to this area. Okay, so let's say roughly we have at this point we have half an inch, then this side 1 inch. Alright, so now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be adding half an inch to the side. Okay, this is for my stitching allowance. Please note it's for your stitching allowance. So this is what I have. I'm going to go ahead now to cut this piece out. Okay, this is what it looks like. So this is for my center piece. Now we're going to work on the side piece. This is my front piece, okay? This is my two front pieces. I went ahead to cut out two pieces for my front. That is the skirt part of my gown. We're going to be having two pieces for it, okay? One is going to be an overlap and one is going to be the main fabric. Now, this is my waist area here, all right? And this is the side I'm going to be having the slits that is going to be overlapping to the other side. So first thing first I'm going to do is I'm going to mark my waistline. Okay, so the waistline I'm working with is 7.5 inches. So I'm going to mark it. For your skirt piece, how I cut my skirt is just the usual way we do our skirt cutting. So this is my waist measurements. Looking at the thumbnail we have there, the overlap had a rope, okay, or a strap, but it did not end, like the overlap did not start, it did not end with the main skirt piece. All right, so what I'm going to do is now is from this waistline I have, I'm going to go in by 2.5 inches, and this is what I have here. This is my 2.5 inches. Now we're going to be having joining and not the rest of them, so I'm going to use 2 inches. Okay, so that after joining, stitching, I'm going to be left with 2. I'm going, the round number of what I use is still going to be 2.5 inches. So we're working with 2 inches. Now we're going to be connecting this to the bottom of our skirts. So we're also going to come to the bottom of our skirts and get the midpoint of the skirts first. So I'm placing my tape here. I have 21 inches at the base of the skirts. I'm going to get the midpoint, and this is the midpoint of my skirts. All right, so this will help me to determine how my slant is going to kick off from. So from here now, I just want to make an imaginary line first. So you can decide to keep your slit at the center piece, like the slant. You can decide to keep it at the middle of your dress. You can decide to keep it maybe a few inches, depending on how you want yours to be. So for this, I'm going to mark 1 inch or 1.5 inches away from the center piece, that is this side. If you watch close what I'm doing. Now from here now, I'm going to be connecting to this area. And this is what I have. Now the next thing I'm going ahead to do now is to cut this piece out. Please note that you're not cutting the two of them together, you're just cutting out the overlap. You're not cutting the main fabric of your skirt. So I'm going to keep this aside. So this is what we have for our overlap. Alright, so now go ahead and cut out a lining piece for the main skirt pieces, not the overlap. I'm not lining my overlap. Okay, so now the next thing we're going ahead to cut out now is our sleeve. Determine how long you want your sleeve to be. So I'm going to be working with 12 inches, 11 inches for my sleeve. It's not going to be a really long sleeve because I'm turning it out with a lining piece. So this is my 11 inches. I'm going to mark it here. Okay, now I'm going to be adding about 2 inches or 1.5 inches at the top because I want to have that kind of a pop. That is okay. If you want to have, I don't want to have. So guys, this is my sleeve. I have 11 inches for my sleeve. I'm going to be turning it out to lining. That's why I used 11 inches. That is 1 inch. My sleeve is 10 inches plus 1 inch seam allowance or stitching allowance. Now from this tip of my sleeve, I'm going to go down to 4 inches. The 4 inches is my biceps line or cap height. So at this point, I'm going to insert my bust measurements plus its similar ones. I'm using 1.5 inches for this. Then here, I'm going to mark my measurements, my elbow measurements, or where your sleeve stops. So for mine, I have 5.5 inches. But for this tutorial, the sleeve is free. It's not like a tight sleeve. So I'm going to add extra 1 inches for ease, okay? Plus my stitching allowance. So this is what I have for my sleeve. Now we're going to be working on this upper area. If you look closely, we have kind of that illusion puff, but not really a puffy sleeve. Okay, so from the tip, I'm going up by 1 inch. Now from here, I'm going to create the look of a sleeve. All right, and this is what I have. Now I'm going to go ahead to cut this piece out. And this is what we have. Okay, so we're using this to cut out another piece for our sleeve. Then we're going to create that curve or that shape we have on our sleeve part. All right, so let's cut out another part quickly.